something that's a little controversial, although, to be honest with you, I'm not totally sure why. Cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. Now, despite tons of evidence showing that the condition not only exists, but is actually getting worse, there are still some people who are fighting tooth and nail to convince everyone that it doesn't. They're saying that it's a conspiracy by Big Pharma to get weed outlawed, or it's another condition like cyclical vomiting syndrome, or it's just exposure to pesticides or toxins, or maybe it's cannabis withdrawal that just looks like it's CHS. But the evidence really strongly suggests that it's not just some conspiracy, but is in fact a very real condition that's showing up more and more, mostly in young men who are in their 20s and 30s, who are consuming massive amounts of cannabis every day without a real medical reason for it. This is an overconsumption problem, a user error. It's not a bug in the system. The problem lies with the humans who are choosing to overconsume the plant rather than use it as a guide along their own journey. Some people seem to think that the solution for overconsumption lies all the way at the other end of the spectrum, total abstinence from weed. They turn it into a black and white issue, something with a binary solution, either yes or no. But so much of the value of life and of the plant lies within the spectrum of consumption options. And everyone's ideal place on that spectrum is different, and it likely shifts over time. I'm pretty active on Cannabis LinkedIn, and lately I keep seeing these posts where people are bragging about how they quit weed. Things like 6 months now, no alcohol, no weed, I'm so much better, my life is so much better. And listen, that is fine for them. Truly. If you have trouble regulating your consumption, then choosing not to consume is a fine choice. Even if you don't have trouble with that, it's a fine choice. You're not hurting anyone, so there's nothing wrong with it, right? Do whatever makes you feel good and happy. As long as you're not hurting somebody else, do whatever you want. But there's often this undercurrent of self-righteousness that goes along with it. Like because they've used willpower to stop doing something that others enjoy, they're somehow better than the rest of us. But look, just because somebody else doesn't want to or can't moderate their use doesn't mean that the rest of us need to throw the plant away too. Despite what it seems like everyone espouses on social media, the world is absolutely not black and white. It is many, many, many shades of gray. Now, the concept of absolute truth, or the idea that there's some truth that's universal and holds true for all beings, is something that we could debate about for a while, probably like in the middle of a blunt rotation. Now, we could debate whether or not absolute truth even exists, right? And if it does, what would that look like? What is something that could possibly be true for all beings? Let me know in the comments what you think about the idea of absolute truth. Does it exist? What is it? This is a topic I'm super interested to know what you guys think about. But regardless of the outcome of that debate, we are each here having our own experience on this planet. We're each on our own personal journey, doing what we do, meeting the people we meet, figuring it out as we go along. And that necessarily means that we each need to do things in a different way than others have. No two people have the same experiences or are alike, so why would any two people have the same life path? Or why should any two people need to make the same choices? Unique beings need unique solutions and unique paths of travel towards those solutions. Hi, I'm Tabitha Fritz. I'm an intentional cannabis educator, and I'm also a spiritual teacher and guide. So to be honest with you, I think about this shit all the time. And whenever you get advice on creating content for your YouTube channel, the advice is always to speak about what you know. And in addition to working with the cannabis plant, I've also spent years studying embodiment and spirituality and alignment. So this video is the first in this 5-part series on cannabis, capitalism, and consciousness. In this one and in the next 4 videos, I'm sharing lessons and stories about how cannabis connects with the way we live and suffer and heal and wake up. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, be sure to do so because you don't want to miss any of these videos. I promise they're going to make you think. Let's get into it. My daughter asked me what the word nuance meant the other day. She's 10, my daughter, and she's always been very good with words. Like pretty much since she could talk, she's been asking me what words mean so she could add them to her lexicon. And usually I can explain them pretty quickly when she asks me what a word means. But when she asked me about the word nuance, it was a tough one to explain. I actually had to go recruit my husband to help me explain it to her, and it took us about 5 minutes of combined effort to really convey what it meant. But now that I've had that experience, I can clearly identify what nuance means. And it means that life exists in the gray, not in the black and the white. There are a lot of subtleties that exist within some things. And the more subtleties there are, the more unique expressions of perspectives there are, the more nuanced something is. Now, weed's a great example. Cannabis is nuanced. It works in a way that's unique to each consumer. And even each consumption experience can be different. It's definitely not a black and white thing. In fact, it may be one of the most nuanced consumable products in the whole world because of the way that it works with your unique personal biology and your mindset and your consumption setting. You can absolutely use it as an escape. And people do because it's truly a pretty safe way to escape. It's non-toxic. It won't kill you. You can smoke all you want and you'll still wake up the next morning. But if that's where your experience stops, and if that's the only way you're consuming it, then you're missing out. You're missing out on the magic the plant has to offer, the magic of changing your perspective. When it's used intentionally and with the appropriate moderation for you, whatever that looks like, cannabis opens your mind. It helps you see differently. You're able to have a different experience than you normally do, even if it's just for a little while. That's where the intangible medicine is, in opening your mind and in connecting with your true self, without all the masks and the bullshit that society puts on us. But if you're over-consuming it without intention, then you're probably not even experiencing that part of the magic anymore. Because I don't know about you, but if I smoke too much weed all the time, I don't get high anymore. I just get mellowed out and feel okay, or maybe burnt out. I don't have those perspective-opening, mind-changing experiences anymore. But consuming with moderation, setting up guardrails around my experience, allows me to get so much higher and to truly change my perspective compared to when I'm consuming without intention. Now, cannabis is a forgiving lady, but eventually, using her to try to escape your life or cover up your feelings that you'd rather not deal with, rather than be more in tune with them, will lead to negative outcomes, like cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, or cannabis use disorder, or simply not being able to access her magic anymore. And look, I'll be real with you, I have absolutely had my own phases of overuse. Lots of times in my life, I have consumed more than was strictly beneficial for me. Now, I recently went on a silent meditation retreat, and I didn't consume any weed for 10 days. I'm going to tell you all about that whole experience in one of the upcoming videos in this series. Before I left, I was eating about 200 milligrams of THC every single night just to keep myself asleep through the night. Now, is this a red flag that there was something deeper going on with me? Absolutely. Did it mean that cannabis was the problem? No, I was the problem. It's like a Taylor Swift song, right? Like, I'm the problem, it's me. And being the problem meant that I needed to regulate myself better. I needed to face the parts of my life that weren't aligned and stop leaning on weed as a Band-Aid. I needed to stop using cannabis to dissociate from my life every night and examine what was going on with me that made me want to act that way. That's my journey. Just because I've been studying spiritual ascension for 15 years doesn't mean that I'm not still growing and learning and becoming even more myself. That's where the magic lies, in noticing my own patterns and then lovingly pulling the cover off of them so that I can take a good look at what's underneath and then allow them to dissolve while I choose a different path for myself with full awareness of what's really going on inside me. That's the nuance that most people miss. Giving up weed doesn't make you morally superior. Just because you've given up weed doesn't mean that everyone else should either. Just because you can't moderate doesn't mean that moderation is impossible. The real work is done by asking, how am I using this plant? Am I escaping from my life, or am I deepening my experience of it? Cannabis is not the enemy. Our lack of self-awareness and self-regulation is. And that's not a weed problem. That's a me problem. That's a you problem. That's a human problem. So the next time you see or hear someone bragging about quitting, good for them. But don't let them tell you what your experience has to look like. Only you know what your relationship with this plant should be. Cannabis, used with intention, can be one of our greatest teachers. Overconsumption clouds that, but moderation and intentionality lets the magic shine through. Now, like I said, this video is the first in a 5-part series about cannabis, consciousness, and capitalism. And in the next video, I'm going to look at how late-stage capitalism has completely warped cannabis, both as a healing plant and as an industry. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. And if you found some value in this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does support the channel. And not going to lie, I get a lot of validation from seeing the likes come in. So there you go. If you want to dive even deeper, you'll find some links to my embodiment and alignment work down below in the description. I'll see you in the next one.